freshly pressed and sparkling clean. Her hair was neatly done, and she turned a smiling face to them. She seemed completely untroubled about walking down a lonely highway in the middle of the night. When the men asked what she was doing on the road at that time of night, she laughingly explained that she had started out to visit her daughter and grandchildren in Montgomery. She had hoped, she said, to get a ride for at least part of the way, but no one had offered her a lift, so she had just kept on walking. The two men said they would give her a lift as far as the next town, a 2-hour drive, and she was delighted to accept. She sat in the back seat, and as they drove through the night, talked about her daughter and 3 grandchildren, their names, where they lived, the children's school, the usual small talk among strangers. When the subject was exhausted, the men eventually became engrossed in business conversation and forgot about the passenger behind them. When they reached their destination, they stopped to let the elderly lady out. She was gone. Panic-stricken to think that she might have fallen out along the way, they headed back in search of her, but they found no signs of their passenger, even though they retraced their route to where they had picked her up and saw her tiny footprints in the shoulder of the road where she had first talked to them. Dismayed and mystified, they drove on to Montgomery and found her daughter's name and number in the local phone book. They felt they had to tell her about what happened, or what appeared to be a terrible accident. After listening to their story in bewilderment, the younger woman pointed to 3 photos on the mantel. Could they identify their passenger? They did, and she agreed that it was her mother. Without a doubt, they had talked to her. They went on to describe her dress, and the woman burst into tears. That was the dress, she said, her mother had worn when she last saw her. When was that? They asked. The woman replied between sobs, when she was buried just 3 years ago today.
So that one cool.
I know, me too. I mean, typically when you see an elderly lady hitchhiking in clean clothes on the side of the road, she's a ghost.
Right.
So, you know, pick her up, or don't. But you know what you're getting into.
Pretty much. You should know.
Yeah. So the next one I think is ghosty too, and then it goes on. Gets even ghostier from here. The haunted cabin. Want to do it?
Do it.
Alright. Near an eastern entrance to Yellowstone Park in Wyoming, there used to be a crude log shack known as the Haunted Cabin. Here's how it came by that name. The cabin had long been deserted when one night, many years ago, a forest ranger camped in it. Just as he managed to fall asleep, he was awakened by a loud pawing and snorting just outside in the snow. It sounded as though some other ranger had ridden up on his horse and was about to enter. He lay there for several minutes while the noises continued, but no other ranger came to pound on the door. Finally, he began to feel uneasy and, taking his gun, crept to the door and threw it open. There was no one there, neither man nor horse. Lighting a lantern, he circled the cabin, but could find no tracks. Baffled, he went back to bed. Presently, the snorting and pawing began again. Again he rose and searched the area around the cabin, but to no avail. The rest of the night was spent tossing and turning, trying to shut out the loud sounds from outside. The next morning he made still another search, found nothing, and left, glad to be away from the place. Several other campers and hunters stayed at this cabin during the following month, and all sooner or later reported the same snorting and pawing sounds outside. Although none of them had heard any rumors about a phantom horse and rider at the cabin. Finally, one camper, after a restless night, decided to investigate further. He researched the animals of the Yellowstone area in local libraries and came up with a newspaper account which may or may not explain the weird incident, but which was intriguing. He learned that many years before the first ranger reported the pawing sounds, a drunken cowboy had spent an extremely cold winter night in the cabin. He had tied his horse to the tree by the door and stumbled inside to sleep a frigid 8 hours wrapped in his blankets. The horse, left uncovered and freezing outside, pawed and snorted to get free. The next morning the cowboy found his horse dead in the snow. Perhaps the horse's ghost was still trying to get free from that tree, or perhaps it was just coincident that all those who stayed in the cabin seemed to hear the same sounds in the night. The incidents remain strange and baffling. That's the end of that.
I think I see the problem.
Yeah? What do you think it is?
Sure.